The Finance Subcommittee of the City Council is comprised of 5 council members and considers any or all questions appropriate for the purpose of considering the budget, including the creation of new positions to the payroll, changes to the employee classification plan, or any matters pertaining to increasing the City of Framingham employee headcount. The following City Council Finance Subcommittee meeting coverage is brought to you by the Government Channel, a service of the City of Framingham.
The hour being after 5 p.m. on January 27th, the City Council Finance Subcommittee will come to order. Participating this evening is the City Council Finance Subcommittee. It's a joint meeting with the School Committee Finance Subcommittee meeting. Our meetings are done a little different than their meetings. We have a call to order, then we have a public participation. But if we have an agenda item, which is what you're all here for, I believe, the budget, we have people talk on the agenda item instead of on public participation because you're going to be talking about a specific agenda item. So we're going to follow that tonight, and I hope that's okay with everybody, but everybody will get their chance to speak. But you can publicly participate if you're here tonight to talk about something other than anything on our agenda. So with that, our meeting is open. Madam Chair.
Welcome to Framingham School Committee's Finance and Operations Joint Subcommittee meeting of Tuesday, January 27th, 2026. I call the meeting to order at 5:02 p.m. In attendance, District 3, Jennifer Moshe; District 4, Adam Freudberg; District 6, Brent Lewis; District 8, Jessica Barnhill; Superintendent Dr. Tremblay; Executive Director of Finance and Operations, Lincoln Lynch; Assistant Superintendent Pre-K to 12 Education, Ann Ludes. This meeting is live on the Government Channel and on Zoom. A recording this meeting will be archived on the City of Framingham and School Committee website as soon as possible. Today's agenda includes public comment, discussion with City Administration regarding revenues, Framingham Public Schools FY27 budget development status. Seeing that we have an agenda discrepancy, we have revenues listed first. Is it a problem for us to go with revenues first?
We were going to do revenues first.
Okay, perfect. Okay, and then like Chair Ottaviani said, we'll do public comment at the start, and please hold your comments if it's a budget issue or a revenue issue, right? Okay.
That being said, we'll open up for public participation. Is there anybody here that would like to publicly participate on anything that is not on our agenda this evening? Please raise your hands. Seeing none, we'll go out to Zoom land. We had one, just so the whole public knows, there's 38 people on Zoom for attendees, and there's 4 panelists. Okay, that being said, there is nobody. We're going to start with revenues because that will decide everything, and I'm just wondering where the mayor and Mr. Tessino are. We're going to take a quick 3-minute or a 5-minute recess for the mayor or Mr. Tessino or somebody to show up and see okay? Thank you.
For those on Zoom, 3 to 5 minute recess.
The mayor and Mr. Tessino have joined us. Mr. Tessino, even though the agenda had revenues second, we want to start with revenues because without revenues.
Mr. Chairman, before we start, I just want to apologize for us being late. We had a very important interview to do today where we've been interviewing people for a CFO position. This interview was scheduled for yesterday, but we had to reschedule it, and we got jammed up with time, so I apologize. We thought you were going to start off with the school budget and get started with that, and apologize for being late. We'll do what we can to make up the time.
No worries, thank you. And thank you for the explanation, good for people to know. Nobody was doing an interview yesterday, that's for sure. You've got the floor, Mr. Tassino, whenever you're ready.
I'm not even sure the format, what you want to do tonight.
Well, we want to talk about revenues, because without revenue projections, we don't know how bad the situation really is, so we just want to take the revenues first.
You know, I think we can talk about revenues, but we don't want to ignore what our obligations are in terms of the operating costs of the city.
Correct.
And what we really need the revenues for, because obviously we need the revenues to run the city, and which includes the schools, but not exclusively the schools.
Correct.
So we can go through the revenue projections. I think Mr. Tassino has passed out forms that we've, are they on the,
Same thing.
okay, go ahead, Mike.
So this year's estimated revenue, the breakdown, the bottom line is we're estimating at $27,600,000. Again, as the mayor pointed out, it's going to be difficult. We don't have our numbers from the state yet.
Mr. Councilor Stefanini.
So it'd be good if we could walk through these one by one so that we can appreciate what the risk is, what the assumptions are, and it would also be good if we could figure out real estate taxes. The governor has announced in her House 1 that there'll be a 2.5% increase in unrestricted local aid. It'd be interesting to know what that means for us. Chapter 70, she also announced that there would be a minimum per pupil of $75, not $30 per pupil, as we had been anticipating. It'd be good for us to have a granular conversation about this, so we're all on the same page as to what our revenues are before we start our budget conversation.
Anybody else? Councilor King.
So I think that the request to go through line by line has some merit, but I mean, I think we need to remember also that this is only $27 million of our entire revenue, so I don't know how much we want to analyze this line by line, dollar by dollar. But I'm fine for at least a general overview over it if that's what everybody wants to do. What's the increase in real estate taxes, given new growth in 2.5%?
We have our city accountant is zoomed in. Can you allow him to speak, Mr. Chairman?
Yep. His hand is up. Rich, I've unmuted you, and you have the floor.
Thank you. Can you hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you. Thank you. And thank you for
Okay,
joining us.
yeah. So what we were taking for the property tax, we're using a new growth estimate of 2.2. Excluded debt was about 3 million. So we started with 230. So that's the prior year levy less the excluded debt. Then we took out the additional $1 million that was raised for the excess levy. So I don't know if that was something that the city council wanted to do or not, but that's how we interpreted it. So we're coming up from so the total increase for the property tax would be 5.7.
That would include, that would be 5.7 plus the 2.2 in new growth for a total of 7.9?
No, I think that includes the 2.2.
Well, if the previous year's levy was 230 million just in the back of the envelope, 2.5% of that would be about 5.7 million. So I would question whether that includes the new growth.
Let me just double check.
5.7, I don't believe does include the new growth.
Okay, that's what I would have thought too.
Yeah.
So that would get us to
Yeah,
7.
okay. Yep, I was looking at the
Yeah.
wrong schedule.
So that would get us to 7.9 million or so.
Yes.
Right back of the envelope.
Yes.
Okay. Let's just even be generous and say 8 million, it's just for an easy figure to use.
We're running a tight ship.
I get that, but if we have 8 million in growth of real estate tax, we have 500,000, it looks like, in the sheet that was handed out here. the only other category that really makes a significant difference would then be state aid. So I don't know if you had a chance to look at it, and I know the governor isn't filing, I don't think till tomorrow, but the governor's local aid proposal for cherry sheets is online, and it shows us also our net increase is about $500,000. So if that holds to the filing, I think it's pretty fair to say that the new revenue looks to be around $9 million.
Now, one thing on that 5.7 would have to subtract out the $1 million of excess levy capacity that we received last year. Are you saying that we shouldn't do that?
I don't think you need to.
Okay, that was not how we thought the interpretation was.
Right, but the 2.5% is only on the 230, which is what we taxed. Last year, we took the 2.5% on the entire levy potential, which was about 270, 280. So I think you've already taken it out with that number.
No, we didn't. That's what the calculation was wrong last year. That's why we were taking out the $1 million.
I'm going to disagree with that, but you're the accountant. But
Yeah.
last year you calculated it on the number you see in the sheet in front of you plus the excess capacity. But the excess capacity doesn't show in these numbers, so you can't be taking 2.5% on it. We have about $40 million excess capacity, which doesn't show here right now. So if you added that by 2.5%, that would be the extra $1 million. But the 2.5% on the 230 base is what I think we're entitled to without that excess capacity issue. Mr. Chairman, I'd be comfortable with those numbers for now, around $9 million.
Okay.
To the extent it matters what I'm comfortable with, I understand. But I mean, just to try to focus the conversation a little bit.
Does anybody else have anything they'd like to share or add? On yours, Councilor Stefanini.
What about the Chapter 70 numbers?
What about them? So according to the FY27 local governor's local aid proposal, we're going from 6429. I'm sorry, it's not us. But I did look at us before. I apologize. I haven't submitted. We're going
Yeah, so
we're going from 92,499 to 93,170 according to the online, or about 700,000. But if you look at some other things, then you look at our estimated charges, it says that it's the bottom net line. The charges go up about 100,000, and the estimated receipts go up about 500,000. Again, I don't know what that's off of, though, so I'm just telling her blank numbers are there, and that's what they're showing as the increase. I don't know. It says it's off the FY20, the first column says FY 2026 cherry sheet estimate. I assume that means the final estimate, but God knows. So,
Looks like there's a significant decline in charter school reimbursement. That's 300 and,
right. There's a decline there. Unrestricted aid offsets that, so it's pretty much the Chapter 70 and a few dollars here and there. But if these numbers are accurate, it shows our state aid is, relatively speaking, flat.
Flat.
It's 500,000, but it's relatively speaking flat, so well less than 1%. So,
and where are we with free cash? Where's our free cash position as of
what did we
today?
use last year in free cash is a good question, because we have to use at least that much free cash, otherwise we reduce our revenues.
We used about 10 million last year.
Okay.
This year, the free cash has just been certified last week at $26 million.
So anything we used over 10 million would be addition to that 9 million or so.
Just to clarify, 26 million is the current certified free cash.
That's what he said.
Yes.
Yeah.
And what do we expect revenue to be from, so the 8 million covers the 2.5, that's at 2.5%?
2.5 plus new growth.
Yep.
Anybody else?
Mr. Freudberg.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Can you remind us what last year's deposit into free cash that became certified was, as well as if there are any projections at this early stage for what the end of fiscal year available balance may be for the overall municipal budget? Thank you.
Wait a minute, could you say that again, Adam, please?
Sure. What was the city's free cash deposit last year that was certified by DOR at the end of 2025 was the first question?
I don't remember what it was.
All right. And then the second question is there a projection at this time for the end-of-year available balance that the municipal agencies will have, including the schools? We've already given the school number. I'm wondering if there's a
We
projection.
haven't don't have that either. I just want to remind people or let people know that right off the top of that $26 million free cash that we just got certified, we have to issue a supplemental appropriation to our health insurance for FY26. And we'll be talking about supplementing our snow and ice budget for FY26, whether we want to make it whole this year or carry the deficit into next year.
Excuse me, we can't carry the deficit into next year because we reduced
You're right.
the appropriation was less than the prior year.
Thanks to the Finance Committee vote, we can't do that.
But it's 6 of one, half dozen of another.
That's right.
Because you still
Doesn't
got to pay
matter.
it
Just one at a
2
time.
years.
Rich, any possibility, you telling us how much that deposit was from free cash? You're the
Mr.
accountant.
Chairman, point of
I'm looking
information.
it up right now.
There really isn't a deposit in free cash. Free cash generates from unexpended fund balances and excess revenues, essentially. So there's no specific amount. It's just what the closeout amounts were and how much more revenue we collected than projected. Like, for example, I think we saw on these estimates for last 1 year, it was like 25 million, but we actually got 30 million, so that goes to free cash. So it's a much more complex discussion than just how much we deposit. We don't deposit anything. It regenerates itself based on unfunded, unexpended balances and excess revenues.
Right. So last year's free cash that was certified was 19.9 million.
It's gone up to 26. Council Stefanini?
Follow-up to that, do we ask the state to certify everything that was available for certification?
Yes.
So there's no excess that has not been asked to be certified?
No.
Okay.
They always look at our position every year. There's no hidden money. I don't know.
Can't do it.
No, but you can request, you can put dollars in front of them to be certified. You don't have to.
No, you do have to.
You do have to. That's state law.
Oh, at the end of the year.
Okay.
Right.
Madam Chair, anybody on your end?
Seeing none?
Okay.
I have one other additional question. Mr. Tassino, the investment income, we notice a larger decline in that. What is investment income?
I'll let Rich answer that also.
What's that?
Yes.
Mr.
Okay.
Rich?
Yeah, so investment income is what it is. It's earnings on interest or earning on our balances. So in prior years, our interest rates were, they were probably less than half a percent. Since the last couple of years, we've seen that increase, but if interest rates decrease, we'll see the interest income decline. So that's what that is.
So that's why the difference between 2.5 and 1.7.
Yeah. Yeah.
You're
try to be
anticipating a
conservative as
decline in
possible.
interest rates.
Right.
Okay.
Anybody else on the council? Madam Chair? Okay.
Are there any public comment opportunities for revenues? Are you moving on yet?
If anybody would like to comment on
Okay.
the revenue. They signed up the school budget. It's one and half a dozen, 1/6 of the other. Does anybody here want to speak on just revenues?
Looks like they're all
Next
funding.
agenda item.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Okay, that being said, our next agenda item. A discussion with the School Finance Subcommittee regarding the budget. Background can be found on the Framingham Public School website, and we have a ton of backup information. Madam Chair, do you want to call?
Yeah,
on
I'm
the
going to
team?
turn it directly over to Dr. Tremblay and Lincoln Lynch. Make sure I have that correct.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you for having us this evening. I know it's intended to be a discussion, so I'm not sure if you want us to do a presentation, high level, or if you want to just talk about what's been already provided to the council and school committee in the packets.
I think, what do your call? If you want.
We've seen this, with the exception of a portion of it. Parts of this have not been seen by our full committee as well. I think high level, if that's okay, since you guys have probably, hopefully. Yes, sure. Sounds good.
Maybe have her. We'll just talk it through unless you want to see a visual? Okay.
August is fine.
So I'll have Link walk through some of the more of the specific details. As you know, in anticipation of a budget that has to be approved by the school committee to be submitted to the mayor, which is anticipated on February 4th, school committee meeting. Up until that point, we've been presenting scenarios, basing it on what we anticipate revenues to be on the Chapter 70 contribution of the state, and also for the city's contribution, which we understand to be at around $6.2 million of what's been from the previous CFO, unless that has changed, right? So we based a gap of about $9 million. The overall increase of $15 million from the previous year's budget accounts for health, well, not the healthcare side of the house, that's covered by the city, but increased utilities, negotiated agreements that we have with our bargaining units, all of those elements, the drivers that we've talked about, out-of-district special education costs, and so forth. So that budget came in at about $15 million. We knew we had to reduce that. So when you take the Chapter 70 number, based on what the $6.2 million would be inclusive of, and where we could go, we had a $9 million gap. We came forward with a proposal how to close that gap by $9 million. Also mindful that we lost at about 680 or so students, give or take. That does change by the day, but give or take 700 students is a significant decline in enrollment. We can all speculate as to why, but we know we've lost that number of families over the last year, in large part to some immigration matters that the committee and the council were all, and everyone in this room is well aware of. So we wanted to put forward a responsible budget that also recognizes the decline in enrollment. So we scaled back proportionately to our schools percentage. So for example, if we have 700 and we know that some schools lost 30 students, maybe other schools lost 200 students. So we had principals scale back their FTE reduction relative to the enrollment decline, again, in an effort to close the gap of that $9 million, assuming the 6.2 from the city as a contribution to the $15 million growth from the previous year. That was met with, a conversation, no votes of the school committee, lots of public comment, lots of advocacy that many of you have received, and community outreach. Since that meeting last week on the 21st, on the 23rd, we met again, reading the room, hearing the feedback, and putting forward a counterproposal. And that counterproposal, which has also been shared with the city council and school committee, is an add back to that, which takes a number of the positions that we proposed reducing in the first iteration and adds them back. Well, how did we do that? Where did we suddenly find the money? The money was found through taking some risk on the federal appropriation under our entitlement funding. So we anticipated, and this was a scare, you may recall last year, of a threat, an idle threat at the time of about $5 million midstream to our operating budget. That came to fruition. The money was funded under the federal government. We were able to get through without any mid-year reductions. Taking a precautionary measure, we baked into this FY27 budget the federal allocations as a safeguard. This new proposal takes, it was at $1.2 million, takes $1.2 million out of what we anticipated in the operating to cover an unknown federal grant, whether that will be allocated or not, and took the risk there and put that back. So we were able to take and add back a number of positions, reducing the initial reduction from 116 FTEs across the district to 96.4 FTEs across the district in this next iteration. Again, for discussion, no votes have been taken at this point. So that's a high-level narrative of where we are, and then I'll turn it to Link if he wants to add a little bit more detail to that high level.
Yeah, just to add on to the federal funding, so it was $1.2 million in our initial $15 million request. That was shifting, that was us projecting we would lose Title IV, Title III, Title II, and 15% of Title I. This new proposal, as of yesterday, for you tonight, includes all of that money shifting back to the federal fund budget, which freed up $1.2 million to allow us to bring those positions that we had proposed to cut back into the operating budget. Now, if we do not get that federal funding for FY27, that leaves us $1.2 million short, and that's the risk. And those fund positions, those fund field trip expenses, things like that for our Title I schools. It funds PD. So that could be a situation, a problem that we'll have to take on later on. Usually August, we find out what those numbers are, but that could mean we're $1.2 million short from balancing the budget next year. just a risk that we are taking at this moment, but I just want everyone to know what the possibilities could be if we really do not get that federal funding. We got an update from DESI last week. They seem to be pretty confident we're going to get the funding, but you never know. I just want that risk to be known.
Thank you, Mr. Lynch. You want to go back and forth between my committee and your committee? Sure. Okay. We're going to go back and forth with the council and the school committee, and then we'll go out to the public. City councilors? Madam Chair?
School committee members.
Just a clarification point, when are we hearing public comment?
I announced at the beginning of the meeting, anybody that's here that would like to publicly comment on an agenda item, I just said it to your chair, that we're going to do it after we spoke and you spoke. So we've got the list.
Thank you.
Same way we did it for 4 years in this room. Okay, we're all set?
I have a question.
Councilor King?
So you said we have to supplement the FY '26 health insurance. Do you know by how much?
God only knows.
Approximately $1 million.
And do you have any idea why? Just because the rate increase was higher than expected? Were there more participants or?
Well, we had the addition of the school bus drivers. That's about $300,000 of it. And if you recall, when we had our budget discussions a year ago, when we were putting together the FY26 budget, we knowingly shorted that budget because we weren't sure where the rates were going to end up. And we went into that budget knowing that we could possibly have a shortfall in the FY26 health insurance budget, which proved to be true.
And what do you anticipate the increase on health insurance is going to be from FY '26 to FY '27?
We've been told that we should plan on an increase of over $7 million in our health insurance budget.
Mr. Chairman, I don't know what exactly we're going to talk about tonight. I mean, I can guess that most of these people in the room are opposed to the reductions that have been chatted about by the school committee. I don't know, but I assume that's the case. And I'm sure they also realize that those decisions really are not, it's certainly not now, anywhere near the city council. They're 2 steps away from the city council. But, so, I mean, I think I'm happy as anybody else to continue to have that discussion, but I'm not sure exactly where that gets us right now. But I think if we look like we're going to be generating locally $9 million or so of revenue, and we heard the numbers that were just provided by the school department, even at the very low number of 6.2 million, you hear about that $7 million figure, and there's other figures on the municipal side too. You're probably getting up there at that point. So at some point, it becomes a revenue issue, not an expenditure issue. We have to figure out how much money we can and are willing to spend. And I think at some point, it doesn't have to be now, as again, I appreciate everybody's here and probably what they feel. But I think we have to decide how much money we're willing to spend, because that's really the question. And there's only a couple places we can get it. We could conceivably get some from free cash, but out of that $27 million, we have to use $10 million of that to keep our revenues overall level, because that's what we spent last year. So if we spent less than $10 million free cash, we'd be cutting our revenue year to year. So there's really only $17 million of free cash, and that would be already spent by $1 million plus. You said something else was necessary too. Oh, the snow and ice will be necessary. So I mean, you're looking at $15 million there, and I don't think anybody would suggest we spend all of that, but maybe you can spend some of it. But that's putting you in difficult situations for future years if you spend. Even if we went to $15 million of free cash in this budget, that makes future years pretty risky, and it still only gets your total revenue increase up to $15 million or so. So I think before we even decide how we're going to spend it, because I think we've seen the general outlines of what we'd like to spend, I think we have to figure a way not to spend as much of it that is at least acceptable to the programs and services we have, or we have to figure out where we're going to spend it from and what we're willing to spend.
Okay. Councilor Cannon.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Good evening, everyone, or good afternoon, whatever time it is. It's earlier than it usually is. I'm puzzled that, so in the course of the last couple of weeks, all of the outreach that I've had from parents that we've all had in hearing about programs like Mandarin, et cetera, and I saw that, and I'm not deep in the weeds of every line item on the budget on the school side the way that I may be in some other areas of the budget, but I kept hearing about that and thinking, my goodness, we must have, if they're cutting Mandarin, it must be a massively expensive program. I mean, this must hundreds of thousands, $1 million in Mandarin. And then I saw your revised memo, and I just questioned the logic of targeting something. It was like less than $70,000. So you put all this, the community through all of this stress, almost theatrically. I feel like we do this every year, but with a different flavor of, we're not going to talk about the millions of dollars that perhaps are the very significant sums that exist elsewhere in the budget. We're going to, perhaps politically smart, focus on things that don't cost a lot of money in the grand budget, but are really important to the community. Things like Mandarin and fine and performing arts and other things. You can go down that list. We've been talking, and I feel like I've been given lip service since we've become a city, since before we were a city, about finding ways to find efficiencies that exist. We've got duplicate infrastructure in areas of our operation in things like HR, finance, buildings and grounds, IT. Some of those, it may make perfect sense to keep them very separate. Some of them, there may be opportunities, and we've talked about this. I'm going back through my notes year after year after year. Oh, yes, Mr. Cannon, give me a month, and I'll sit down with the COO. And I'm hard on the COO about this because I feel like I'm not getting anything from the administration, and there's a game of pointing fingers at each other. But as Councilor King and others had predicted, there would have been a time, there will come a time, when we will have wished we made those difficult decisions. I'm stunned that now we're talking about fine and performing arts cuts and Mandarin and things that are classroom-facing and making a difference. I can point to things in my own childhood that probably didn't cost the school department that I grew up in a lot of money, but helped make me the person that I am today. And among those are things that you have targeted for elimination. And I just question your leadership there. When we haven't talked about things that you have assured this community you would meaningfully look into. I believe there are votes on the school committee that where there has been consensus. I've sat through a number of Saturday meetings where you've assured us you're going to take meaningful action, but here we are. You're scaring the hell out of a community about Mandarin for 70 grand. Meanwhile, if I don't have a sense that the 700-person reduction in enrollment is short-term. Maybe it is, maybe it isn't. The reason I feel that way is in tracking where students withdraw and then go to when we know, I feel if there were data to support that this was a short-term thing, you would have articulated that. And since there hasn't been, that I've been able to find a real meaningful discussion of what we know about the departing students, I'm just going to go on a limb and say this is probably a longer-term thing. I don't want us to get into teacher count, head count, class size discussion until we get into maybe we don't need the size of an administration that we currently have to cater to a smaller enrollment. And I don't see you looking internally at any of that stuff meaningfully. We're handing out, now I can be hard on the school committee, on the city council and the city side too, because as we're talking about teacher layoffs, some of our staff went to a networking event, then a municipal conference and all of that, which I don't think is a smart idea. Putting that aside, we'll get to that another time. How are you not right-sizing your own administration, which many have reported as bloated, some people within your own administration, before we start talking about cutting Mandarin and fine and perform? Help me understand. I guess I'm having a crisis of confidence because you've given me your word for all the years that we've been a city, and in many ways you haven't delivered on it, and I'm having a hard time navigating through the theater and the reality here when this is probably the most critical time that we've had this discussion. I've thrown a lot at you. I know it's a lot to keep track of.
No, I get it all. Thank you for the comments. So first of all, since you want to go in the weeds, let's go in the weeds. So when we put forward proposals, bear in mind we have a responsibility to balance a budget. We're given a number, and we have an obligation. We're acknowledging that we have 700 less students. So how do we close that? Yeah, we could get rid of every administrator, I suppose, and then hope for the best. Administrators are on contracts that are performance-based. So when people come at cost of living adjustments that are somehow seem to be these sort of fixed growth, I just need people to realize who they're impacting, which is support staff. right? The people who run the cameras and the audio for fine and performing arts that you mentioned, they are the ones who receive the COLAs. There's no steps and lanes for these employees. These are employees that have a fixed number, and they're tied to the Unit A. For a lot of years, in fact, COLAs were not tied to anything. It was arbitrary. And we normalized that procedure so that we had a fair wage for our employees. So I want to just point that out. Since we dived into the weeds here, we looked at schedules that were incomplete. So the question about Mandarin, I'm not trying to, since you raised it, the reason why it was on the list, not because we don't value it, it's offered at one school. It's offered at Walsh Middle School. It's not offered at Cameron and Fuller. Over the years, we've been working to have equity and having a quality of programming where we can. So we have it at one, we don't have it at the others, okay? That's the point. We have 36 students currently enrolled in that program. So if we're going to go there, we need to talk about the subscription of enrollment of courses, including high school registration for classes. And what is that point of threshold where we say we can afford to run this class? So yeah, maybe it's $70,000, and I hate to speak ill of this because people are in this room advocating. Why is it on the list? Because is it affordable to run a $70,000 program for 36 students? I don't think it is, in this scenario, trying to be responsible. So why it's there, and yeah, it's one number, but when you compile that number against all the other programs we have to look at, that's the responsible part. And as Councilor King pointed out, the City Council is 2 degrees away from where we are in this process. People are coming forward. They're coming forward at us, understandably, because I'm the one that put forward these reductions to balance the budget. If you're saying that there's more money to work with, and we just illustrated tonight that we did put money back, the programs you just mentioned, Fine and Performing Arts, which also is an incomplete schedule. There's a reason for this. If we're going to get in the weeds on school leadership and schedules, let's talk to our principals about how we got there. You can take the shots at me, that's fine. But it's important to understand that we didn't do this arbitrarily or in the dark of night or with any guesswork. We took a crack at our central office. In fact, we've been balancing the last 3 fiscal years on central office alone. This year in FY27, representing 40 overall cuts to central office staff over the last 3 years. This is the first time in recent fiscal history that we've gone to a point where we've had to go to the school level. And why is that? Because we have 700 less students in our schools. So it's proportionate. I understand it's upsetting, and we'll go back. If you tell us you're going to give us the whole $15 million, we'll reinstate it all. And we took that risk in adding the $1.2 million, as we pointed out, and bringing back those very positions that you named tonight. So frankly, that's off the table because the most recent proposal includes the very positions that you just named that were reduced. So I'm here tonight just to remind everybody of that. Not looking to be argumentative. I'm looking to just set the record straight with facts. But we're open to looking at everything. And the last comment I'll make is regarding municipal mergers with school department. Sure, let's have that conversation. Mr. Ticino and I have had this conversation. We've put forward before to this council about opportunity under capital. We think there's a real easy way to lead into that with capital investments in the city that have a real compounding factor of opportunity for cost savings. That's a place we want to look. Maybe it's not the big win that we're looking for. To take HR as another example, I think we have to really study that. I don't think it's going to work. Technology, in my experience in a previous district of merging two, was a disaster. It was a disaster merging technology because of the nuances in education that's so different from municipal operations. So we can go down any path. I'm happy to sit with the mayor, with Mr. Ticino, city council, anybody, and say, yeah, can we do better with our merging of, there's got to be an interest on both parties to do so. And if so, let's talk about it. So I'll be done, Mr. Cannon. Thank you for raising those points. Again, this is a discussion. City council is really 2 or 3 degrees removed, as you mentioned.
Mr. Chairman, a quick follow-up, and I apologize. I thought you were done speaking. I didn't mean to interrupt you. I don't know what shots that you say that I took at you. I don't think I asked you anything that was unfair, and I'm disappointed that you seem to miss my larger point. Now, no one is suggesting that we get rid of every administrator. I wish you'd just put the hyperbole aside. I don't think it's good for the discussion. You're a senior leadership. We invest hundreds of thousands of dollars in you. You set the tone. And when you say we're going to get rid of all administrators, but when you talk about performance-based contracts and performance-based compensation, I look at the performance, the report cards that we get from the state. We're giving raises out. Interesting choices. However, the last number of things that you said to me about combining responsibilities, my goodness gracious, someone with some video skills is going to assemble probably every year. You're telling me the same thing. If we need to study it, why have you chosen not to? Okay, it didn't work in another community, but you've told me year after year after year you're going to do this. You're focusing on the camera operators for some reason. Why are you focusing on I don't know what a camera operator makes, but you've got people in your office, we have hundreds of thousands, very significant W-2 payroll. You eliminate one of those, you change somebody from an assistant superintendent to a director, as you restructure some of these things over, I mean, there's money to be saved there that can perhaps better service the community as a whole. I'm hearing the same thing that you've said for, year after year. I don't know where you're getting $15 million. There's not $15 million to give. This positioning that you seem to be putting out that the city council has taken money from you or is withholding money. I mean, I don't know where that's coming from, but you're not doing a very good job in getting facts out. And in talking about, I think you raised a good point about Mandarin. You put it back. Be a leader. If you're so committed to saying, here's why we can't do Mandarin, guys, and here's the problem, I think you'd probably have more support for having some integrity in your argument there. Instead of, I can get anybody to show up in a meeting, and if that's the thing, if it's the loudest voice that wins the discussion, that doesn't serve the community as a whole. And I want to make sure that the people that don't have the voice, that don't have the ability to have the time to come here on a Friday or a Tuesday night at 5 o'clock when they're working, who don't have the luxury of coming to a meeting like this with a bunch of people, we don't only serve the loudest voices. So that's great. I can get people to show up. I don't know. It's Lucy and Charlie Brown with the football. One of these days, you're going to do what you have said for years you're going to do, and maybe I'll have a different tune. Mr. Chairman, that's all I have. Thank you, and thank you.
We're going to go to the school side next. We have Ms. Moshe up next. Thank you for your comments.
Thank you. So, Mr. Cannon, you raised some interesting points. So I think that we really need to be mindful that taking the emotion out of everything, we're running a business. We're running a business of education. When you run a business, you need to look at your expenses. The reality is we're down 700 students. What changes that is the services that we need to provide, the services that we were providing those 700 students, how has that all changed? And I think what Dr. Tremblay has done and Lincoln Lynch, they heard everybody. We went back to the drawing board. Well, not we. I can't take credit for that. I'm sorry. But Lincoln and Bob and his team, they went back to the drawing board. They went and looked at everything that they said that they were going to cut. They reassessed things because they heard people. They heard us. And they're coming back to us with alternatives. The fact is we are going to have to lay off people. There's no way we're not going to be able to. I don't see how that's not going to be possible. Would I love everybody to stay and have a job? 100%. But the reality is there's no way it can happen. So I just think we need to be mindful that we're running a business of education. We're not just educating students. That's not our job, our purview as a school committee to put together what the curriculum is. That's not our purview.
I'm going to call on the council next, but in all fairness, it's a $400 million corporation. And when you hear we're only generating 8 or 9 million, and the narrative, you guys all hear the narrative. Everyone in this room hears the narrative. You guys asked for 15, you cut it to 8, and then the narrative is the city council took $8 million away from the schools. That gets old after a while, to be honest with you. That narrative is old, okay, because we haven't even gotten to that point yet. But it's always the city council that's the bad guy. You start at 15 million, and then everybody's a hero because the number's 8. Well, the narrative is city council cut school budget by $8 million. That's the narrative. And from my point of view, it just gets old. Councilor King.
So I think I agree with what Councilor Aviani just said about that. I mean, it's very unfortunate that the $15 million number ever got out there. I don't think it's necessarily what you ever, even your wildest dreams, would have expected to get. I understand why you might come to that number originally, but that's just not a realistic number in any way. So it's unfortunate that becomes our base number. But I do still feel we're a couple degrees removed from being in the weeds. But I think the points raised by Councilor Cannon, though, were very important. I am also disappointed that being told year after year, we're going to do this, we're going to do that, we've never done it. And I'll be very frank, I keep hearing, maybe it's not fair, but I keep hearing, you don't want to do it. Whether it's, whether it's combined HR or combined the schools, school sorry, not combine the schools, combine the school maintenance, and, yeah, no, not the
Buildings and
capital.
grounds.
Building and grounds is what I'm trying to get to, right. So those things, there's opportunity there. We could save money there. I know people wouldn't like it, but just very simply, if you have one director of 2 duplicative departments, you're going to save a couple $100,000. You are. You can have one person run it. That's why we have regional school districts, because regional school districts have one superintendent who covers 3 towns, smaller towns than this. I'm not suggesting we join a regional school district, but I'm saying it works throughout. Technology, I kind of agree with you. I'm not sure that works as good as other things because of the regions you state. Some towns do it and do it successfully. I believe our former Councilor Steiner, well, I shouldn't say, I don't know if they do it. Maybe he only does school side. But I know other people who do it successfully. So maybe we can't do technology, but I guarantee you we could do HR. I guarantee you we could do buildings and grounds. Thank you. Buildings and grounds, if we wanted to do it. There's no question we could do those things. And we never even look at it. It's like the idea of doing capital. I'm not saying that's not a good idea. It probably is. I'm not saying we don't need to manage our capital projects. But that is like throwing like a little piece of bread to us instead of the whole loaf. And we have to, especially, and I also understand from working in this business for many years and just maybe human nature, we've been very lucky for the last decade plus, which is very unusual. There's been a lot of money. I mean, during COVID, when everybody thought there'd be less money because nothing was coming in, I'd never seen so much money in the public sector as we've had over those 5 years. And when that happens, the downside of that happening is no one then wants to look at the hard decisions because there's no reason to. The money's there, we can spend it. But as you keep having years like that where the money's there and we can spend it, you build up resilience and you can go back and get some of that stuff and you can look at the infrastructure stuff and you can save that. You can save money there. It takes a little bit of willpower, I agree, but you can do it. And it's not just you. I'm not talking just to you, Bob. I'm talking, the administration overall. But we could do it. And that's the type of thing we haven't had to do, and no one's asked us to. It hasn't been worth the fight. I haven't even put up that fight for the last few years, even though I love to find efficiencies in government, because I know it's not going to happen because there's not enough money. But there's only $9 million right now coming in next year for all of us to split. And we only get above that if we spend reserves, which we can spend some, fine, but we still only get to the 13, 14 level. At the best case scenario, in my opinion, back of the envelope right now might change, understand that, okay? But there's pretty firm numbers out there right now, and I don't see how much we get above that 13 and 14 million for everybody. So I think we all better figure out a way to do it and still be able to provide the services these people reasonably want and expect. And we can do it. We've had years where we haven't had to. We can do it. But there has to be some, and I agree with Jen said, there's going to be some reductions. You lost 700 students. It's a business, as she said. There has to be some reductions.
Thank you.
I'll go next, and then we'll go back to City Council, and we have some other school committee members who would like to speak. We are still working through the student impact issue. All right, we appreciate your thoughtful feedback. We realize we can't just buy whatever we want to buy and have whatever program we want, and we're going through the steps to actually go through and see what student-centric impact is. We're having those conversations. We've added another meeting tomorrow. We're appreciative of your collaboration and your efforts to have this meeting and to talk this through. I will say that, I don't want to keep using Mandarin as an example, but that's not been voted on. We're assessing, student impact. Regarding the merger of Parks and Rec, I do see that as a two-part conversation, that there has to be collaboration. It's not just one side. So if there's interest in that, I feel like we should absolutely pursue that. Like we've said, we've pursued in other years. I have Park and Rec on the list, Building and Grounds, and HR on the list. Perhaps not this budget cycle, but I think it's worth a discussion and moving forward. Is there anything else that should be on that list, just off the top of your head, anyone, before I continue?
What did you say was on it?
Park and Rec, Building and Grounds, Human Resources.
That would be a great start.
IT, finance.
Well, I'll add it to the list for
I'm
consideration.
not married to anything, but can we at least get an informal, sorry?
No, I'm still speaking, so I'm just asking to add to my list. I'd like to continue if I may.
You can.
Yeah, you can.
Sure.
But as you wrap that up, let's get these folks on the record saying we'll do that.
Well, I want to continue first, and then if you want to bring that up in your comments, you're more than welcome to. As far as timeline goes for the budget, I'm curious to hear from the administration about a date and your intention of submitting. So I have this thing, I think Ms. Malik created this document. It has some dates on it. I'm just wondering if the mayor is firm on this date of submitting to the city council, what date do you plan on submitting your budget to the city council?
The new charter, those dates were the dates.
You know, we all know that the new charter, the charter amendments vastly changed the schedule for doing the budget. And I think that's a big detriment to the whole process because it's forcing us to make decisions and come up with numbers that we need more time to develop. And I've had brief discussion with Councilor Stefanini about invoking the wording, that emergency wording that shows up in the new charter about revising our timeline to take more time to collect more data, find out better information from the state, what the state may be proposing, and take a little bit more time to put this budget together before we race to make drastic cuts that we may not have to do depending on the outcome of some of the revenue discussions. So that I was going to recommend that before we adjourn tonight, that we seriously consider invoking that emergency provision that was given to us as part of the change in the charter to give us more time to work on these things.
So what date do you anticipate submitting the budget?
Right now, I'm obligated to submit the budget May 1st, I believe.
But invoking
I
that
mean,
emergency.
March 1st, what?
So the emergency exemption that's in the charter would give us more time to submit our budget. Currently, the school committee's budget is due February 4th.
right.
Can we reasonably expect that to be extended?
It's up to the city council to make that decision.
Okay, so we don't have a firm date when you will plan on submitting your budget, and it's going to be based on the city council of whether or not they choose to.
I would be
Exempt.
very happy to get the extra time for you and for me to work on the budget and submit it later than the new charter changes mandate.
So you would support recommending the emergency exemption
Yes.
to allow us with more time?
Yes.
Okay, and seeing that, so we could potentially have a later date to see how House 1, see what that comes out, have a better picture of what the governor's number would be, have a better picture of what the actual numbers would look before the school's budget. Okay,
Yes.
thank you.
Councilor Stefanini.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'll try to be brief on a few points because they've been made. It's worth highlighting that this is going to be a tight budget. I suspect next year's budget will be a tougher budget, just looking at the tea leaves. And while the transparency is painful sometimes, it's a critical part of us being able to make tough choices, that people see how they are derived, and I think that's important. I also think budgets are important in terms of priorities. I appreciate, Mr. Tremblay, that early childhood education and providing equality to 4-year-olds remains a high priority and in the conversation. Tough choices, they're yours to make, and they're schools. And we don't get it until it's done because we don't have to make those choices. We leave that to you folks to make all those fun decisions. But I would suggest to you that non-student-facing positions, some of them added by COVID, need to be looked at very carefully as part of the reductions, so that we're not harming student-facing programs. And yes, we have to look at efficiency of programs. As hard as it is, and I'm sure I'll get some phone calls for this comment, it is hard to justify a small program in one school that doesn't have the ability to go forward because that student is learning something that is not going to be able to be carried out to the same level of intensity as other programs. They're not going to have the number of colleagues that other programs have. And I think that has to be part of how you look at the program. And I think we need to make some of those tough choices. That said, we have to keep the core of what makes us us. Our schools are the most critical part of what makes Framingham. It's part of what makes our real estate values what they are. It's part of what gives us the fabric, and we need to do what we need to do to figure that out. And I would encourage you to figure out the answer to that question, irrespective of the budget, but we need to be tightening. I'd like to follow up on a couple of comments that have been made prior to this. First, the issue of consolidations. I think we can study this to death. I've gone through this with Mr. Freudberg multiple times over multiple years, and Mr. Cannon. I don't think we need to study this, to be honest with you. I don't think we need to study personnel or IT. I think we should, and I'm going to make two motions. I'd like to make a first motion that we ask the COO and, I'm sorry, Mr. Lynch, you are the CFO or the?
Executive Director of Finance and Operations.
Yes, that the two of them come back to this group formed in a joint committee sometime in the next 30 days with the proposal to consolidate buildings and grounds.
Second.
Capital, that topic. And I don't think we need to study that. I think what we need to know is, can the two of you come up with a proposal that saves us money and does the job? That Mr. Mayor works and gets the things done that you want. But when it comes to building new schools, Mr. Mayor, you have a lot of control over appointment of committees and the bonding, and the council does. So there's a lot of stuff that goes together anyways. I don't know that personnel, IT, and others which are so radically different, I don't know that in a large community that there are economies of scale or efficiencies. And then, when you're done with that, we can either vote to jointly accept that, or we can finally say, you know what, it just doesn't work, we're not prepared to make those decisions.
You said building and ground and capital.
Capital.
You don't mean just buildings and grounds.
No, I mean all the facility stuff that the chair was talking about.
Okay.
In terms of how we consolidate the care and maintenance and construction of our facilities.
Okay.
The second motion I'd like to make is that, given the short time period in this particular year, owing to the adoption of the charter, and with no blame assessed to anybody, we are all a little flat-footed in this budget process. It was an election year last year, so we were distracted. It was, the charter changes were coming in, and we weren't all focused on the new timeline. I would move that we draft for discussion at our next meeting a resolution to present to the council on extending all of the deadlines in the budget, in the charter, under the invoking the emergency provision by 30 days.
So is that a recommendation? The first motion we can do. The second motion, is that just for our
That's for
subcommittee?
us. That's for us to create a proposal on it.
Right,
And
but-
then for us to vote on it.
For the city council. The first motion is for both combined boards, correct?
Well, it's for us. They would have to make their own motion.
Okay.
And just point of information on your second motion, that would be, I guess I'd have to work through, we would need an additional in our full committee.
No?
No, it's just city council
As I
for,
read the charter provision, it stays the submission of the school budget, the mayor's budget, the council budget, but it does not, it's a vote of the council on the recommendation of the mayor.
and that's all that's needed to implement this. It looks like it's just city council vote.
Right.
Okay, got it.
Point of order, though. I mean, when's the school budget presently due?
February 4th.
February 4th.
There's no way we can consider it before February 3rd.
We can waive our rules at our meeting. when
Yeah,
meet
we can put it
tonight.
on the agenda for February 3rd. So then I would change that motion then. I would make a motion that we recommend to the council at the February 3rd meeting that we invoke that provision in the charter.
All right. We've got a couple
you got-
motions on the table. The school committee's got to take up a motion. We've got about 16 people and a couple people on Zoom. We want to let everybody talk. So even at 3 minutes, we have a hard stop at 7 PM tonight. We have a city council meeting in this room. So she had one more person that wanted to speak, Madam Chair, had Mr. Freuberg. We can vote on these motions, and then I want to go out to the audience, because even if they get 3 minutes, we're going to run out of time.
All right, Mr. Freudberg, you're up.
Thank you, Madam Chair, Mr. Chair. Appreciate everyone being here. I always see these annual joint meetings is really helpful, understanding they're not decision meetings, but they help the council kind of see what's coming and help me as I develop my focus for tomorrow night and for next week with the school committee budget timeline, understanding there could be something shifting based on what you're talking about. But, the bottom line up front is we really should think about this as an opportunity over a couple of years to look at the enrollment loss and what that means for our overall budget. And I also mean that in a way that balances the actual student achievement needs and the workload and what lower class sizes can bring to be helpful to our test scores and other scores that many at the council over the years and the public have said are not good in comparison to other urban districts with similar demographics. And so going forward, I've talked about at the last few school committee meetings how the district has a responsibility to present that, really rough option of, I called it like the D level grading score, with an A level being the 15 million number, knowing that there's no way and no need for that $15 million number. If you look at the enrollment growth numbers from 3 years ago, we were at 415 new students. That came with 54 new staffers. We really should be looking at what positions on today's newly revised list of 98 are specific to enrollment. There are numerous positions that were restored that to me had nothing to do with enrollment, and I agree with a little bit of what Councilor Cannon said, that it created some churn in the community and was really hard on people, and I'm very pleased the district heard everyone loud and clear and that the committee now has some new information to reconsider that. I also want us to think differently about revenue. Revenue is critical. It's important. It's our budget. In good fiscal times, when state aid is higher, whether it's from enrollment or anything else, the city's local share is able to not increase as high as normal or even decrease at times. And when it's the opposite, as it is right now, the city local share is required to go up to keep core services. The term level service, level funded budget is something we should all be paying attention to. And I would encourage us all to think about how, as a school committee, tomorrow night and next week, we can look at what we can do to get, we're not going to get that A level budget, but if we can get to a B plus, what is that number and what does it mean and how can it play in revenues? And what I mean by rethinking revenues, I really want to get back to the mayor's first term, where his first 3 budgets were really good on the mayor's number. The number given to the school district was specifically based on data, enrollment, aid, and the actual need of moving our strategic plan forward. The current number, to me, and again, it's early, I get it, it's not a criticism, it's simply based on where I think we are right now in this process. We really should be looking at the actual impact of our contractual agreements, what those known costs are, subtracted from healthcare cost savings from those who have retired and are leaving, that helps the overall numbers, accounts for the enrollment numbers I talked about earlier, and again, look specifically at the known numbers. For years, we have known that the contract escalation for this fiscal year was between $9.3 and $10.4 million. So I'm going to talk to the school committee tomorrow night about ways of us looking at the mayor's number and that $15 million no way number and coming to the middle with a very specific data-driven number that explains exactly what positions we want to save for direct student-facing services at a range between 9.313,780 and 10.408299. I give specific numbers because those are the contracted requirements that this city has given to our employees. I fully recognize that the city council has a minimal to little role when it comes to contract agreements. But if you look at the 7 contracts that are agreed to between our employer unions and the executive branch, that is the known number. Finally, that number does not take into account all of the different cuts the school district already put in today's memo, as well as some of the new Chapter 70 aid going from the minimum aid number up to 75, which gives us a few hundred extra thousand. And then finally, as I close, to the motion that's on the floor from Councilor Stefanini, I believe that we are years behind when it comes to mergers of at least one department. I could go on in this forever. In the interest of time, I'll wrap up briefly by saying the charter specifically lays out a pathway for the mayor and only the mayor to propose a specific merger. I think we can help facilitate that, but I also think, with complete respect to everyone at the tables, it has to be this side of the room. The elected officials are the only ones who can ever get this done. There's an inherent conflict of interest for their own people, for the org chart, for the process. we need to drive this forward. And I'll remind everyone that the scope of work was already drafted. If you go to the September 1st, 2021 school committee meeting packet, the exact scope of work was voted unanimously by everyone who was at the table then. The city council reciprocated with a unanimous vote 3 weeks later on September 22nd, 2021. It governed exactly the type of study that should be done by an independent outside validator to look at the mergers. It's not up to me to say that we can't merge HR and technology, even though I believe it. I strongly believe we can merge buildings and grounds, capital projects, the Parks Department mowing team with the school custodial team and others, and facilities as well, if I didn't say that one. But I want an outside independent validator and this side of the room to handle that for it actually to be a reality. I don't believe it's going to be dramatic savings, but it will be something, and at least it will help us with capital deferral cost escalation that will come from having the same team work in the room. I'll close with one example. There are currently 5, maybe 6, roof projects going on in this city right now. 4 different project managers, 4 different contract vehicles, or 5 different contract vehicles, different, where's the joint purchasing? Where's the teamwork? I think that, to me, could be the cost savings. I don't know if it's going to happen in time for this budget, and it has to, by the charter, have something the mayor files directly and has a public hearing with both the school committee and city council, and then state law requires us both to vote. So I'm encouraged by that conversation to come up again, because it's been, honestly, you could go back in time and read the minutes. We've had the same conversation over and over again. And my lesson learned is we have to lead it.
Okay, thank you.
And so I know that's a little bit different from the budget, but I thank you for listening to my terms on kind of where I think we need to go with both the budget and the separate issue of mergers. Thank you.
Thanks. So now we're going over here.
We have 2 motions on the floor.
Council Stefanini's wasn't seconded. I'm going to second it right now.
Okay,
So
gotcha.
you keep track of your end, let me keep track of mine, so I'm not all confused. So the first motion of Council Stefanini's was made and seconded by Council Cannon, and in 30 days, the administration, I know they got a lot going on with budgets, but this is a no-brainer. Pull up the minutes that Freiberg talked about, and you'll get you can copy and paste. So we got a motion on the floor by Council Stefanini, a second by Council Cannon, to come back with some type of proposal on efficiencies in merging. All those in favor on the city council, raise your hand, because we're all here. All those opposed, 5-0. We got a second motion from Councilor Stefanini, seconded by myself, about making...
Make a specific motion?
Sure, and we're going to recommend that to the full city council, this motion, on our end. I'm ready.
I move that after consultation with the school committee and mayor, that we declare an emergency for the purposes of Article 6 of the Framingham Home Rule Charter as amended to extend the various budget timelines by 30 days.
Second.
Got a motion by Stefanini, second by Cannon. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor on the city council side, please raise your hands, 5-0. I need a motion, just so nobody gets upset with us here. Rule 11A, agenda items. Time will be allotted for Framingham residents to speak to an agenda item after the agenda item has been discussed by council members present and shall be limited to 15 minutes, total of no more than 3 minutes allowed per speaker unless additional time is approved by the majority vote of the city council members present. Speakers will be recognized by the presiding officer subject to available time. We have at least 15 people signed up. We have a hard stop at 7. I think she might have a couple people on her side that want to talk, but I need a motion and a second on the city council to allow public participation to go past 15 minutes.
So moved.
Second. Motion by Cannon, a second by Council Stefanini. Any further discussion on our side? Seeing none, all those in favor, please raise your hand. Did you want to speak, or is that?
Sorry.
Councilor
I think
Cannon.
our hard stop's a little before 7.
Okay, right, so they can reset.
Yeah.
Right, okay. Well,
Probably
we'll make it work, but that's, I want to make sure everybody had a chance to talk, that we can get through as
But
many.
just so everybody knows, that for timing, we probably have to stop by 6:45 so we can switch over.
All right. We'll-
And if you're not heard tonight, I really recommend, if you have an email, to email us. We have another committee meeting tomorrow night as well. School committees has public participation in the beginning and the end.
Okay, one more time, because he put his, all those in favor of allowing to go past the 15 minutes, thank you. Do you want to see if somebody wants to, or we're going to go right to public participation so we can get the people to talk?
Anybody, Mr. Lewis.
I just wanted to quickly appreciate the richness of this conversation. It was sort of what I hoped our December 30th joint meeting was going to be and produce. I'm mindful the charter has pushed up all these timelines, and I'm grateful for the city council for their motion and approval to give us some extra time as we await revenue numbers. Per the merger conversation, I know the city council is taking up their rules and exploring the 5th Tuesday as a topic conversation with the community. I would defer to my chair, of course, but I would love for the school committee to be involved. This feels like a topic that could be of use at one of those Tuesday meetings. Thank you all.
Interesting.
All right. All right, we're going to go out to the public. First speaker is Tiffany Maskell. And it's 3 minutes, but we're going past 15, so that's where we're at. And I'll set the time when you start talking, Ms. Maskell. With no disrespect, when it gets to 15 seconds, I'll let you folks know, and just so you know when your stop is.
Thank you. Tiffany Maskell, District 7. Good evening, members of the school committee and city council. We are relieved to see that the arts, Mandarin, Sage, and ESL positions are being reinstated. Community voices were heard, and that matters. But 96 positions are still proposed to be cut. Those reductions coming from staff who work directly with students every day, not many from central office leadership. These are the educators and support staff who build relationships, provide services, and create the environments where students feel safe, supported, and ready to learn. When those roles are reduced, students feel it immediately through fewer support, stretched services, and less individual attention. It is also concerning to see a reduction tied to McKinney-Vento, which is a grant-funded role supporting students experiencing housing instability. Presenting that as a savings measure shifts the burden onto some of our most vulnerable children. In a diverse district like ours, DEI work is essential, not optional. Ensuring every student and staff member feels seen, respected, and included should remain a high priority. Balancing the budget on the backs of student-facing staff while leadership remains seemingly untouched sends the wrong message about our priorities. We urge you to protect the people who directly support students every day and to pursue solutions that share the burden more equitably. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Grady Maskell, you're next, sir.
Thank you, school committee members, for listening to me and all the other students that talked. It means a lot to know that all of our voices matter. We talked about programs and staff that are important to us. Theater and chorus are important to many because they helped us grow and feel more confident, feel like we belong in school. Thank you for taking us seriously and hearing what we had to say.
Thank you very much. Thank you for being here. I might get this last name wrong, but because one of you got it as Roberts, one of you got it as Robert. But I'm going to start with Teresa Ajudum. Is it Robert or Roberts?
It's Roberts.
Robert, okay, yeah, because underneath you has an S you didn't. I want to be wrong. You're up, and you've got 3 minutes.
It's Therese Acton Roberts.
I'm sorry.
And I am reading on the behalf of the CPAC, and we sent a letter this afternoon to the school committee, Dr. Tremley, and the city council. And in that letter, they look at the city's funding per student and looked at it for the cost of inflation. And we just would like that information, check our numbers, but we'd like that information to be transparent. We're talking apples to apples, oranges to oranges. Sometimes we're talking about numbers of students leaving the district, but dividing the local aid, divided by the students, and looking at that and adjusting for inflation, because looking at 2021 purchasing power and what purchasing power is today is the reality that our schools are facing. With that being said, I'll read my comments for this evening. Good evening, I'm Therese Acton Roberts, and I am one of the current co-chairs of Framingham CPAC. I want to offer important context as you considered budget, particularly related to special education. Each year, the state evaluates school districts using a special lead determination. The highest rating is meet requirements. Framingham is currently rating in a need intervention, placing us 2 levels below the standard. This rating is not because of paperwork or compliance. The district performs relatively well in those areas. The lowest scores are tied to student outcomes, academic progress, graduation, and whether students with disabilities are being effectively supported in the classroom. The state is clearly signaling that outcomes for students with disabilities must improve. Against this backdrop, their proposed elimination of 13 student-facing special education positions, along with 18 campus aides who often support students with IEPs, is deeply concerning. These are the education and staffs who make services real, implementing IEPs, supporting inclusion, and responding to complex needs. This determination did not come out of nowhere. Years of budget cuts, including cuts to professional development, has gradually weakened our in-district capacity while students' needs continue to grow. Under federal law, when the district cannot meet students' needs in district, it must fund out-of-district placements. These placements are extremely expensive, often around $100,000 per student per year before transportation. The district is currently tracking 9 students who may require out-of-district placements before the end of the school year. Our hope is that as decisions are made in this room, this full picture is kept in mind. Maintaining strong in-district special education capacity supports students and families.
15 seconds.
It is also a responsible fiscal strategy, especially at a time when the state is clearly calling for improvement and outcomes. Thank you for your time and your care for all of our students.
Thank you very much. Bella Acton Roberts, and I might have said it wrong again. I'm trying. I'm sorry. Welcome.
Hello, I'm Bella Acton Roberts. I'm a student of Walsh Middle School. I have dyslexia, which means I don't learn like everybody else. But with the right support, I can learn. Right now, there is a need in Framingham Public Schools for experienced teachers that know how to teach students like me. That is why more funding is needed to train teachers and keep experienced teachers in our school. When I was in elementary school, many of my main teachers were new. Today, only 2 still work in Framingham. Even though we're kids, we can still tell the difference when teachers have experience and know how to help us learn. Also, joining Walsh Drama helped me feel safe, included, and confident. Having an amazing teacher like Miss Doucette made a big difference for me. Thank you for reconsidering drama. And I'm asking the school council, please see how important this is for students with learning disabilities. Drama is not just an after-school activity. It helps us learn and feel like we belong, but this only works if the school invests in teachers. I love Walsh Drama and Walsh Middle School. This is a big reason why I feel good and successful. Finally, I am asking the school committee and Dr. Trumbley to stand up for families and students like me and to push City Hall to increase funding and for Framingham Public Schools. And Mr. Mayor, I know there's been talk about a new school in Framingham, which would be nice, but fully funding the schools that we already have should be first. Thank you for your time.
Bella, thank you very much. Excellent job. Our next speaker is Christine Mulroney.
Good evening.
Thank you.
We recognize that this is a difficult budget cycle. Rising costs, the loss of federal funds, and the impact of reduced student enrollment on Chapter 70 all create real fiscal pressure. We also understand that given the size of the budget gap, there will likely need to be some cuts this year. But acknowledging that reality does not excuse the repeated pattern. Year after year, proposed budget cuts are redirected back to the school committee to reduce, forcing students to absorb the consequences in larger class sizes and fewer supports. Recently, the school committee heard nearly 2 hours of public comment from families, educators, and community members about proposed budget cuts. After listening, the school committee reinstated some of these positions, reflecting what the community understands to be educationally necessary. And yet staff cuts are still being contemplated to close the remaining gap. The city must act urgently to minimize these cuts while addressing the structural issue that creates reoccurring crises, the long-standing failure to correct the local contribution. Even accounting for enrollment-driven fluctuations in Chapter 70, over the past 5 years, the city received about $35 million in additional state aid, while only $12 million of that $47 million of increase in education spending came from local sources. Framingham has the capacity, nearly $26 million in free cash, $22 million in stabilization reserves, more than $41 million in excess levy capacity, and a levy increase of only 13% over 5 years. With nearly $42 million in reserves and more than $41 million in unused levy capacity, the claim that staffing cuts are unavoidable is simply not supported by the facts. The city must act to minimize cuts this year and commit to long-term solution correcting the local contribution so students are not forced to pay for reoccurring underinvestment. This decision will be remembered not for how hard this year was, but for whether you chose to protect students when you had the capacity to do so. Thank you.
Thank you. Shannon Pearson? Is there a Shannon Pearson? Hi, you're up.
Thank you. Hi, good evening. My name is Shannon Pearson. I'm a health teacher at Dunning Elementary School, and I'm here to express concern regarding the potential elimination of the full-time elementary health positions within the district. As Mr. Cannon had pointed out earlier, I didn't get a chance to speak because I had family issues last week, but here I am. I've served in this district as a parent, as a substitute teacher, as an office manager, and I am currently an elementary health teacher. Through these roles, I have witnessed firsthand how students' needs have intensified and how critical, proactive, preventive health instruction has become the main reason that I have taken this health job. Elementary students today are facing complex social, emotional, and mental health challenges at increasingly younger ages, including anxiety, exposure to trauma, family instability, and the impacts of constant media and technology use. In the past 10 years alone, anxiety and depression have increased significantly among elementary-aged children, meaning more students are coming to school needing daily emotional and mental health support just to be ready to learn. Health education provides structured, developmentally appropriate instruction in emotional regulation coping skills, in peer relationships, in safety, and help-seeking skills students need daily in order to learn and function successfully in school. When health positions are cut, this essential work does not disappear. Instead, it is pushed onto already oversized and under-supported classrooms. Classroom teachers are asked to absorb the additional responsibilities. This shift increases stress on teachers, reduces instructional time, and ultimately impacts students' readiness to learn and overall school climate. I urge everyone in the school committee and the city to carefully consider the long-term impact of removing full-year elementary health education. When you cut out time, you cut off connections, and these connections are made by being present in the building full-time in support of the students, the families, and the teachers. Thank you for your time and thoughtful consideration.
Thank you. Just, we're going to cut this at 6:50 to give them a chance to change the room. That gives us 17 minutes. I've got 3, 4, 5, 6, I got 10 people. So be mindful, there's 10 people that want to speak, so if we can keep our comments to under 2 minutes so everybody gets a chance, or some people are not going to be able to get to speak, and I apologize for that. Our next speaker is Alicia Goodwin.
Hello. I'd like to speak a little bit about school achievement. As the ESL department chair for Fuller, Cameron, and Walsh Middle Schools, I can attest to the progress we are making to remediate the achievement gap in the district. At Fuller, we raised our accountability percentage in the past 2 years from 2% to 4%, and then from 4% to 8%. We also doubled the number of students who demonstrated proficiency on the WIDA access test from 15 in 2024 to 31 in 2025. Additionally, 33 students were within 0.1 to 0.3 points of exiting ESL status, surpassing DESE goals for us. For those who may not know, access testing accounts for 10% of a school's accountability score. In that same vein, Fuller has also developed a mentorship program wherein ESL students develop actionable steps to achieve their goals. In the Falcon Wings program, students work directly with their ESL teachers and meet approximately once per month to discuss both social and emotional and academic priorities with students. Last year, 24 of our 31 FELs received mentor services. Framingham has a focus on dually identified students because it is these students who are most vulnerable. It is also these students who tend not to receive all the support they need, which is why data continues to represent these students as underperforming when it comes to standardized testing. With current staff at Fuller, we have been able to provide small groups for MCAS and Access, and even for iReady. This has allowed us to provide optimal testing conditions for students to more accurately determine which interventions will best serve them. If we lose the very people contributing to our success, how can we be expected to maintain our current trajectory? And I do want to acknowledge here that I understand ESL positions have been reinstated, although there's a lot of other people still on the block, including our DEI coaches, interventionists, special educators, and campus aides. So I'll leave you with this thoughts. I do understand that we are crunching numbers, but our staff and students are people, and the people must come first. Thank you.
Thank you. Next speaker is out on Zoom land, Jessica Villatoro. I've unmuted you. You're up.
Hi, thank you. Can you hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you.
Okay, perfect. Hi, my name is Jessie Villatoro. I'm from District 4. I'm here tonight to speak about the serious budget shortfall facing Framingham schools and the proposed layoffs of staff, the majority of which are teachers. These layoffs will have devastating consequences for students: larger class sizes, reduced academic and emotional supports, fewer electives, and fewer trusted adults in our school buildings. At a time when students need stability and support, removing educators from the classroom is the wrong solution. At the same time, families and educators are being asked to accept these cuts with very little transparency. The community deserves clear answers from the school department about how these decisions were made. We deserve to know why classroom teachers are being laid off while central office administrators are still receiving their cost of living increase. I also want to question other spending priorities. Has every administrative position been critically reviewed? Has the city and school department fully justified high-level salaries, including positions, for example, such as the head of security and safety, before deciding that teachers, the people that are directly educating our children, are expendable? Dr. Tremblay and Mr. Lynch need to do better. This is not about balancing a budget. It's about values. Framingham cannot claim to prioritize students while cutting educators and instead protecting administrative raises. Transparency, accountability, and equity must guide these decisions. The city and mayor need to prioritize our schools. There needs to be greater transparency from both the city and school department. Our children, our families, and our community deserve better. Please make our schools a true priority. Thank you.
Thank you, Jessica. Next speaker on Zoom land, Herb Chasen.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. The FY27 school budget gap may be temporary, but teacher layoffs are permanent. Once educators leave, they don't just come back. Programs disappear and class sizes won't decrease. And I wanted to say, as an aside, that I've seen how important smaller class sizes are when I was involved with Hoops and Homework after school program. Smaller class sizes are vital, especially the kids that are living in, let's say, disadvantaged areas. Framingham has millions of dollars available in reserves to fix this budget gap. All right, we heard about free cash available, there's stabilization funds, and let's not forget that we can go above the 2.5 levy, and there are funds potentially available there. So the money is available if people want to stand up and do the right thing. Using $6 or $7 million for 1 year would save more than 100 teaching jobs and preserve smaller class sizes. That's exactly what reserves are for, preventing a short-term problem from becoming a long-term damage to the system. Now, you know that the schools are struggling. Student outcomes and scores are deeply concerning, deeply. We've already lost too many experienced teachers. Cutting further now doesn't fix anything. It locks in failure. So please don't choose permanent harm when a temporary solution is right in front of you. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chasen. Next person on Zoom, Andy Creel.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yeah, welcome.
Okay.
Andy Creel, District 4. I just want to say, kind of echoing the previous speaker, that this is certainly an emergency. I appreciate the invocation or potential invocation of the emergency clause in the charter to extend this discussion. But emergency funds should be used as well. And with respect, perhaps I misunderstood the comment. Running a school is not running a business, it's running a public service. And our communities are facing critical needs right now, and eliminating positions does not eliminate those needs. And as the previous speaker mentioned, it is harder to build up service than it is to cut them. So everything that we lose now is going to be that much harder in the next cycle to bring back. And when people aren't getting their needs met, they go to where they can get those met, then enrollment reduces and the attendant funding also reduces, and the cycle of pain continues. So please continue to find creative solutions and use any measure to support our students. Thank you.
Mr. Randolph, you're up.
Yes. Thank you. The last time I spoke as a parent for one of the students. Second time I spoke, I was as an activist, and I kind of shook. And I want to tell you all that you're competent. So thank you all for the creative work you've done. But the third level I want to speak to today is, and I appreciate the phone call from the last caller, where he said that running a school district is not like a business. I believe there are practices that are shared. And I just want to talk about this, and one of the things that I want to bring about is, let's not continue this pattern. We've all noticed a pattern of reoccurring where the most vulnerable people in the population are affected the most. And sometimes it's just not the school, sometimes it is our seniors in our senior community, and sometimes it is our people who are not able. So what I'm asking you to do now is not just to look at this as an exercise of balancing a budget on the backs of the schools and those things, but how to break this pattern permanently. And my suggestions are simply this. Let's first right-size this budget. And I believe after hearing this call, I believe that there is a pattern, there's a way of doing that. It may not be as high as whatever, but there's a way of right-sizing this. I do believe we have to tap the reserves, but I'm going to add a third layer. We need to get other administrations, other agencies involved, because we need to find more creative sources of revenue. We need to find more collaborations, more partnerships, more agencies that can help and support our schools where our schools are in need, so there's no further duplication under other agencies as well. What about our parks and recs? What about our fire department? What about our collaboration with Framingham State University? What about all these other collaborations we can make to support our teachers in those positions that are being eliminated, because we do have teaching assistants there who need work, who need hours in the classroom. We have ways in which to do this, and so my ask is not just to be fiscally responsible, but to break this pattern of trying to do everything alone. Because we are a city, and we should operate as a city with all the agencies involved. And I just want us to be more creative in our sources of revenue, and our sources of support, and our sources of collaboration. And thank you all.
Thank you. Kim Lee Manuel.
Good evening. In the interest of time, I'm going to skip a whole bunch of stuff that I had. My name is Kim Lee Manuel. I'm an English language arts teacher at Fuller Middle School, and I'm going to take my husband's advice and not be provocative, and to remember that at the end of this, it is really about our students. I'm going to ask you to work together on a budget that supports our students into the future. I'm going to ask you to call on that part of you as your moral compass and work on a budget that will support this community. My husband calls that your better angels. The proposed school budget would be a destabilization of our schools where many of our students feel safe and seen. And yes, families have left the district. And our bigger question should be why? The school world around us is often a scary and unpredictable place, and our schools provide a refuge for all students. I'm humbly and respectfully asking you to find a way to fund our schools that reflects who we are. And I'm reminded of the FPS, part of the FPS mission statement. Through a comprehensive education, it is our mission to create and empower free-thinking and responsible citizens who can participate equally in our rich and diverse community. It is also unfortunate, and maybe this is provocative, that we consider our schools a business. Our students are more than numbers. They are vibrant, curious, amazing, and wonderfully authentic small humans. We build our future, our city's future, on the way we care for and educate those children. Thank you.
Thank you. I said I'd go to 6:50, so I've got 4 minutes left, and I've got 4 speakers, so it all depends on you people. Addie Price.
So because ESL has been maintained in the budget, I would like to give my time to Tara Whitehurst, the DEI coach.
Tara, she's on the list. What is it, Tara Whitehurst?
Yes.
Yeah, you can come. You're next, then. She deferred to you. Then after that, it's Verma, the last name Verma, and then poor Sarah McEwen, you signed up last, so we'll try to get to you.
All right,
You're up.
Thank you so much. I am Tara Whitehurst. I am the DI coach at Fuller. This position was created for me. I come from 25 years in higher education doing DEI work, and this job I love. I love this job. I love this community. I love the students that we serve, and they need us here. I'm going to make this short because I'm going to speak tomorrow, but I want to tell you about my day on Friday. I stepped in and did the morning announcement, something that I intentionally use as a space to connect to learning. During Diversity Awareness Months, I include trivia so students can engage and reward them with Falcon funds. And when world events are heavy or difficult, I use that platform to share where students can find resources and brave spaces, including my office. I met with 6th grade, 7th grade, and 8th grade student council. We created a new student council at Fuller, and this group of diverse students ran for office, campaigned, prepared speeches, campaigned in multiple languages, and were elected by their peers. It has been an incredible leadership opportunity watching them grow, and has been truly meaningful. This is an opportunity that will not be able to continue. Later, I met with the Boys of Color Affinity Group. We had a new member join, and one of the boys said, "You have to introduce yourself. This is the place where you can find trust, and nothing leaves the room. Share your name and your favorite hobby, and there's something that you want to share, you can. Anything that makes you happy as well." Students need spaces like this, spaces where they feel safe, seen, and supported. I also was a surprise guest speaker at the world language class. 2 weeks earlier, I taught lessons on microaggressions to 6th grade ELL students before students read the book New Kid. In this Spanish class, students identified microaggressions during discussion and explained. Ms. W taught us about that. One student had been in the EL classes and didn't know what the term meant, so the teacher and I planned a surprise visit. When I entered the room, the students rapped, clapped, and cheered. They interpreted for one another, shared examples, and engaged deeply. We discussed people of color that were breaking barriers. These past weeks have been difficult, but Friday filled my cup and gave me the light I needed to continue fighting for this equity work. We make statements to continue fighting for equity work in Framingham Public Schools, but we talk about the importance of equity, culture, and belonging, yet these are the spaces that they have needed.
You okay?
Somebody needs to burn down.
Sit down.
He's having a TIA or something.
I got it.
She's calling. Yeah, this meeting is adjourned.